What's up, guys? Here's a quick answer to a question I got. The question is there a difference between an approach jump, so someone running into a jump and jumping up, and a standing vertical jump where they're reaching for max height? And the answer is obviously yes, of course. And then on top of that question, I'm assuming they're asking a little bit, what are some of those differences and how does that influence my training? A static standing vertical jump has, again, in place, jump up as high as you can, has a lot to do with your relative maximal strength and then the speed at which you can produce that maximal strength. Essentially, that's why you see people who are really strong squatters for their body weight jump very high in regards to that standing vertical jump. Now, there are some nuances within that itself, because a standing vertical jump can be done with a very quick loading phase or a slow loading phase. I'm making a little more of a general statement here by saying a stronger individual relative strength in the lower extremities can probably jump higher. Again, relative strength. So it's not just being really strong, but being strong for your body weight. Again, in that squatting pattern. This does not mean that you can be weak and have a really good approach jump. It's just that they're slightly different in nature. So an approach jump has a lot to do with converting horizontal velocities into a vertical movement. So that takes, again, a lot of strength, no doubt about it. It takes a lot of vertical strength, a lot of vertical stiffness, but it takes a different kind of strength, put it that way, where you have to have a really stiff ankle, I don't mean stiff like immobile, I mean an ankle and lower extremity complex that's able to hit the ground and transmit that horizontal force or horizontal velocity into a vertical jump. So when we're thinking about that, it has a lot more to do with how quick we're producing it, but also our muscle elastic abilities. So how well our body is at storing and utilizing elastic energy, and how well the muscles that are involved in that process are synchronized together to produce such. And so that's why you might see someone who has an amazing standing vertical jump not have a very good approach jump. And you might have someone who's a great approach jumper without a very good standing vertical jump. Some anecdotal context to that. I went on a kind of a jump program where I did strictly depth jumps. So depth jumps or drop jumps, however you want to call them, off of a 1 meter box. And my standing vertical jump didn't get any better at all. Like, I remember doing it and I was like, man, why am I not getting any, jumping any higher? The Russians use this, and Verkhoshansky, I could squat quite a bit at that time, and my relative body strength for my squat, I could basically squat twice my body weight. And so I was thinking, well, maybe this is going to be really helpful for my standing vertical. Nothing really improved at all. However, my approach jump went up by about 4 to 5 inches. Highest I could ever jump from an approach jump standpoint I've ever been able to do in my entire life. And so I've got me to thinking that when we're doing these depth jumps, right, it is such a large vertical impulse you have to deal with when you come down off of the box, hit the ground quickly and jump back up. And it requires such stiff ankle and lower extremity, as well as the core as well. I think we forget a little bit about that, not to go on a tangent, but the core does play an important role in that as well. That the movement patterns are slightly different, and they're put different demands on the body itself. And so the ability to actually jump high from a standing vertical is not going to guarantee that you have the ability to have a good approach jump. An approach jump also takes a little bit of skill, right? You have to have a good penultimate step, so the step that you're going into the jump itself. You have to have, not all the time, but better synchronization with the arms. You have to understand how to pace yourself into the jump at times. But when you watch like elite level athletes do it, they make it look so effortless. And they don't also, like, again, taking a step back, watching about basketball players, again, I'm basketball biased, right? We see an athlete go to the paint and dunk on someone. You go, oh, wow, that looked really easy. They probably just, are extremely strong or skilled or whatever. Yes, that's the case, but it's also the case that they're extremely strong and skilled because that sport demands that specific movement to be done over and over again. So if you're not familiar with that specific movement pattern, you're not a basketball player and you want to improve your approach jump, practicing those kind of movements are critical, because those movements are performed in basketball since you're a little kid doing layups and all that kind of stuff. But if you're not that kind of athlete, well, how do you implement some of those movement patterns that stress that system in that way? And so when you're looking at an approach jump, I really do think that lower extremity stiffness has a much larger role in it than some people, I don't say some people, than we might give it credit for. And some of that distinction has to do with it really is a plyometric movement, right? We're on the ground for only a short period of time. We're doing an approach jump, maybe 0.25 seconds. But when we're doing a counter movement jump, we have a lot of time to develop force. The amount of time that we're going down and back up is actually quite large. That allows us to accumulate a larger impulse. And also, by the way, our feet are on the ground the whole time doing a counter movement jump, but they're open, right? They're off the ground, kind of an open chain. We're going to an approach jump. So the kind of co-contractions you have to have around the ankle, hip, and knee, even the core, much different than that of a counter movement jump. So in a counter movement jump, you can get away with a really big knee bend and accumulating a large impulse, assuming we're just going for max height. But in an approach jump, we don't have that ability. You got to turn the muscles on quickly. They got to synchronize together. They're on the ground quickly. There's an elastic recoil with a tendon. They jump up and, converting that horizontal speed into a vertical jump. So there are differences in it, right? And I think a lot of those differences come from if we're doing just strictly a counter movement jump for max height, getting really strong doesn't hurt. It does a good job of getting you there, having a strong body weight to strength ratio. Or strength to body weight, that's why the whole max squat to body weight ratio came out, because like a lower extremity metric. Essentially, the more force your lower body can produce relative to your body weight, it's going to really help your standing vertical jump. It will not guarantee an extremely high an approach jump, because an approach jump just has a different skill set involved and also slightly different demands, which is why implementing things where we are doing maximal strength work and maximal jumps, as well as those traditional plyometric movements with rapid ground contact times, are critically important, because we have to we have to develop the ability to transfer horizontal forces into vertical propulsion. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. Kind of my quick way of breaking it down. Again, the difference between counter movement jump where you're in place doing a standing vertical versus an approach jump, two different entities, but they do hold some similarities as well. So hopefully that helped answer a little bit of the question. And again, looking forward to more of these questions. I really appreciate them and do my best to answer them and get them out as quick as possible. So thank you guys. Take care.